Today I will be talking about the Bray family farm and how it has changed over the years and the impact it has had on the nature around it. So the farm is located in central Wisconsin in a rural area. There are roughly 2,000 people in the local city, with most of them living on the countryside in farms or areas that have about 10 acres or so. This farm used to produce milk and other dairy products for the town, but now it is only cash crop, which is sold to larger corporations for feed or to be made into other products. So, a little background about the Bray family. Before my dad took over the farm, his father ran it on his own as a dairy farm. This required a lot of time and energy to take care of the 90 plus cows they used to milk every day. After the untimely death of his father, my dad was able to maintain ownership of the farm and converted it into strictly cash crop. It has been a cash crop farm producing corn and soybeans for 60 plus years. Here is a quick video on how far away the farm is from Marquette University. So as you can see, it takes us up into central Wisconsin, and it is a big change of scenery, not a lot of buildings around in the area. You can see all these different fields, and we own about 300 acres. So everything that my cursor is circling is about how much we own. And then there are also other farms in the area that produce things such as potatoes, um, alfalfa, hay, and a bunch of other things besides soybeans and corn. So, the reason I chose this topic and why it's important to me is because I grew up here and I've lived on this farm for 20 years. I found a love for nature, and the reason that I'm doing the major I'm doing today, I spent most of my childhood outside exploring the wildlife and learning to love it. And then I also realized everything it has to offer, providing food and shelter for me and the wildlife in the area. So, the industrialization of farming has been growing ever since machinery has become popular. This includes irrigation, and in places like central Wisconsin, which are very sandy, dry areas, the use of irrigation is important because otherwise you won't maintain a good crop. And so the overconsumption of water is very prevalent up there. And heavy machinery is also changing the way that farming happens in central Wisconsin. All these equipment run on diesel and they create more fumes and fuel emissions that are affecting the quality of the air up there. Pesticides are also growing, and pretty much every farm uses them unless you stumble upon an organic farm. But the use of pesticides also affects the insects in the area. I've noticed on our farm that a lot of the monarch butterflies used to be really dense, and now because there is more pesticides being used in the land, that they have kind of died out, even though there is still plenty of milkweed in the area. So our responsibility to the natural world and how we can relate to it is having direct contact. So direct contact with the natural world gives us a sense of urgency to protect it. So living in nature and being surrounded by all the woods and animals that live around that area shows how much you need to protect it, because it gives a sense that there's other things that rely on the surrounding area besides just you. Conservation is a harmony. This is a direct quote from Aldo Leopold. Living in harmony with nature creates a positive relationship between men and land. And this kind of goes with having a direct contact. It just learning how to live within the nature can make it better for both sides and live longer and have a happier relationship with the ecosystem you live in. And respecting what you have. So, respecting the nature you have is a key to preserving its longevity. It's kind of the same as like living in harmony. It's if you don't respect what you have, it's not going to be there for a long time. Aldo Leopold talks about the biotic pyramid and how he thinks the levels have energy transfer, not just how we're used to, but how a sense of you can relate to the ecosystem. There are 5 levels, which is soil slash decomposers, primary producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. So Aldo Leopold created these biotic pyramids. To understand how the pyramid is made up, we have to understand the land as more of an abstract concept instead of just a physical presence. So these pyramids allow for us to see the different levels of energy sources that make life possible. And he refers to this energy cycle as the fountain of energy. And according to the pyramid, without stable and nutrient-rich land, there can be no life. So mass production agriculture is affecting this cycle because it drains energy from the land. Changes in the pyramid can alter energy flow. For example, think about mass production agriculture. We use a vast amount of land to grow crops, but because of pesticides, it removes the insects and the rodent layer directly above plants. And now the only thing living that benefits from these crops are humans. So, because there are few crops die in agriculture, there are no insects or rodents to die in the agricultural land either, so the land itself is soon exhausted of energy. Leopold's argument is trying to say that we ought to have a fundamental understanding and love for the land. The land pyramid was created to give a visual representation of what the land does for us, and he wants everyone to be a good ecological citizen, which means creating, promoting policy that minimizes damage to the land. Through this understanding and appreciation, we can then be ethical regarding land. For instance, we should stop damaging land by putting an end to clear cutting, encouraging rotational crop planting, and promoting organic foods. Our farm has already implemented rotational crop planting, and we are a low till farm to no till farm, depending on what was planted there the year before. The human settlement impact on this biotic pyramid. Before the human settlement of the land, these animals were able to roam about freely, with the only threat being their respective predators, whether it was a coyote, wolf, bear, or whatever level of the biotic pyramid was their predator. Now that humans are living in the area, these animals are faced with habitat destruction, machinery that could cause harm to them, and other possible tertiary consumers. Although the negative impact of humans on the land was unintentional, it is still causing the ecosystem to adapt around them. Resources that the land provides for us. There is sandy soil, which is great for growing crops such as corn and soybeans. There is vegetation for the animals and humans, such as raspberries and blackberries that grow naturally in the area. And there is wood for shelter to burn for heat, as well as groundwater that is used for irrigation and for us to drink. Are these resources public or private? So because we own the land, it makes it a private resource. So only people who we allow to use the land, such as for hunting or for farming the land that we aren't using, would be able to use the land because we own it. Acts of provision characteristics. So acts of provision involve actions or behaviors related to supplying and providing for various needs. So agricultural farming is actually one of these because we are planting and cultivating crops to produce food and substance for trade. So this makes the land positive for the public even though it is private resources.